Historical Antecedents in the Course of Science and Technology, Chapter 1, a lecture by Fidelis S. Tui. Learning Outcomes. At the end of this chapter, the student should be able to explain how science and technology affected the society and the environment, identify inventions and discoveries that changed the world over the course of history, and discuss the scientific and technological development in the Philippines. Science is from the Latin word scientia, meaning knowledge. It refers to a systematized activity that deals with observations, experimentation, and explanation of facts. Science. According to the famous science historian John Hilbert, modern science is a discovery as well as an invention. It is a discovery of regularity of nature that is enough for natural phenomena to be clarified by existing principles and physical laws. It is an invention since it creates techniques, equipment, and organization to help in the analysis of facts gathered through observation. Technology. Technology then is anything that we use to accomplish something with ease, comfort, and speed. The tools or equipment of yesteryears. Science and technology indeed plays a very important role in our everyday life, from the food that we eat, to the tools to cook our food, and to the car that brings us to places. At this point, let us take a look at the tools that were created during the ancient times, the Middle, and the modern ages. Starting with the Sumerian civilization, we have cuneiform, the first writing system. It makes use of pictures and triangular symbol carved in clay with the use of wedge and allowed to dry. It is used to keep records of things with great value in their everyday life. The Uruk city was constructed using mud or clay with reed plants to produce sun-dried bricks that aim to defend its people from men. The great figure of the war served as a sacred place for the chief god where only the priests were allowed to enter or send. The irrigation and dikes. Due to the difficulty of fetching water from the rivers to maintain farmland to provide enough food supply for the increasing population, they created dikes and irrigation canals to bring water to their farmland. Another challenge to the Sumerians was the transportation, since the wheel was not invented yet. Their main mode of transportation was through the waterway to bring products to places. The boat can carry only so much, so they created a larger boat enough to carry more people and goods. The wheel. Later, they were able to invent the wheel, but the purpose really was for farm work and food processing like milling of grains with less effort in less time. The plow. Another farm tool invented by Mesopotamians is the plow. As population increased, so with the demand for food, so the need to invent a tool to make digging faster became essential. As the plow breaks the ground, the farmer would just drop the seeds and they were able to cultivate larger parcel of land faster. The Babylonians were known as great builders. They are engineers and architects. This is one of their major contributions. The literal meaning of the word Babylon is confusion. The Hanging Garden of Babylon was a structure made up of layers upon layers of gardens that contained several species of plants, trees, and vines. However, no physical evidence has been found to prove the existence of the Hanging Garden, so people only marvel at the beauty of the garden from the stories of the historians and paintings that portrays the place. The soap. Modern way, it was made from mixing oil from laurel or bay trees with olive oil and soda. Formula and manufacturing process for this highly prized soap did not change over time and is still today produced in its original form. Roughly around 3000 BC, the ancient Egyptians started using writing material called papyrus, made from the essence of papyrus plant. Prior to the invention of paper, they used clay or rock to keep records of important events. The invention of paper resulted to the invention of ink, which is done by combining soot with other chemicals to produce different colors. They use it to record history, culture, and codified laws. Like the Sumerians, Egyptians also developed a writing system using symbols called hieroglyphics. The Egyptians believed that this writing system was provided to them by their gods. To date, this system can still be seen and remains to be as famous as the pyramids. According to the document written in 4th century AD, the ingredients needed for the perfect smile are rock salt, mint, dried iris flower, and pepper, all of them crushed and mixed together. The cosmetics was originally used for health reasons. They apply it around the eyes to prevent and cure eye diseases. They also believed that the person wearing makeup was protected from evil and that beauty was a sign of holiness, and so even the males wear them. Another important invention was the water clock. It is made of ceramic base with a tiny hole at the base to ensure the liquid outlet at a given speed and therefore in a predetermined time. Click the link to watch how it works. Greece is known as the birthplace of Western philosophy, science, and technology, more than the Colosseums and the Olympics. Even before the invention of computers, the Greek already invented the ancient world's analog computer, orrery, a mechanical model of the solar system that illustrates or predicts the relative positions and motions of the planets and moon. The alarm clock then is used to tell when to start and when to stop working. They made use of water that dropped into drums which sounded the alarm. The water mill is a very important invention used for agricultural processes for the mass production of rice, flour, cereals, and milling of other grains. They only required access to rivers where mechanisms of a large wheel with small buckets of water attached to it could be installed. Click on the link to watch the video. Heliocentrism, or sun-centered universe. Before Copernicus made his discovery, Greek astronomers noticed that the Earth and the rest of the planets revolve around a relatively stationary sun at the center of the solar system. Many great thinkers and scientists in ancient Greece had proposed a heliocentric system almost 2,000 years before Copernicus. Ships relied on lighthouses to help them find their way. With modern instruments that are aboard ships now, they aren't as important. However, they are still used and do have a purpose, especially for smaller boats. The Roman Empire has the most extensive political and social structure in Western civilization. Aside from their contribution in politics, a lot of discoveries and inventions are still relevant today. The newspaper, or the Acta Diurna, made it easier for the Romans to publish matters that needed the attention of their citizens. The Romans enjoyed easy access to government information. The Codex, or the bound books. It was Julius Caesar who started the tradition of stacking a papyrus to form pages of a book and later provide cover to protect it. The earlier cover was made from animal skin. The Roman aqueduct was a channel used to transport fresh water to highly populated areas. Aqueducts were amazing feats of engineering given the time period. Though earlier civilizations in Egypt and India also built aqueducts, the Romans improved on the structure and built an extensive and complex network across their territories. The Julian calendar's formula to calculate leap years produced a leap year every 4 years. Although the Gregorian calendar has become the international civil calendar, the Julian calendar was still used by some countries into the early 1900s. Some Orthodox churches still use it today to calculate the dates of movable feasts, such as the Orthodox Church in Russia. Numerous ancient Roman structures like the Colosseum, the Roman Forum, and the Pantheon in Italy are as yet standing today, thanks to the invention of Roman cement and concrete. Romans first started working with cement more than 2,100 years ago. Roman cement was extensively weaker than its contemporary version. However, it had been strikingly tough because of its novel formula, which utilized lake lime and a volcanic slag known as pozzolana to make sticky glue.
Tea production became popular in China up to this date since the invention of a wheel-based mechanism with sharp edges attached to a wooden or ceramic pot. Although silk is naturally produced by silkworms, the Chinese were the ones who developed the technology to harvest and process it to produce paper and clothing materials. Gunpowder is one of the most interesting inventions in China. In their effort to discover an elixir of life, they mixed charcoal, sulfur, and potassium nitrate, in which they accidentally produced a powder that generates enormous amount of heat and gas in an instant. On the other hand, gunpowder is also used in fireworks during special celebrations. Compass. Chinese compass had needles pointing south, while Westerns has needles pointing north. The Great Wall of China was constructed as a protection against the attack of the northern invaders. Today, it still continues to be a world attraction due to its historical significance and architectural grandeur. It would take us around 18 months to walk the Great Wall of China. The Middle Age. Most of the innovative minds came from the medieval era. This period is tarnished by great inventions and migrations due to war. And with that, the need for technology in terms of weaponry, navigation, food production, and health increases. Despite the decline in population on the earlier part, eventually, trade and commerce greatly demand for transportation technology. Printing press. It addresses the need for printing newspapers and books that would spread information to many people at a fast rate. Johann Gutenberg invented a printing press using a cast type. To develop the proper medicine for illnesses, a need for a device that could magnify things invisible to the eye became crucial. Guided by the principle used in the invention of eyeglasses, Zacharias Janssen developed the first compound microscope. This was the key in discovering new means of preventing and curing diseases. Zacharias Janssen developed the first compound microscope guided by the same principle used in the invention of eyeglasses. Telescope helped to see remote objects, a great help for navigators to avoid dangers at sea. With compass, it made navigation easier and safer. Galileo became famous with the use of his telescope. War weapons, bow and arrow, iron body armors, and chainmail. The bow and arrow is used only for open area and long-range battles. For hand-to-hand combat, soldiers wear iron metal armors. However, due to its weight, their movement is limited. The problem was eventually solved by the invention of the chainmail. Modern age. During the 19th century and onward, more goods at a faster rate must be produced due to booming world population. There's a need for a more efficient transportation to trade goods even in farther places. Faster means of communication is needed to connect among nations. All this resulted to industrialization and the need to improve food processing and discovery of medicines. Pasteurization. The process of heating dairy products to kill bacteria that causes spoilage. Louis Pasteur. Pasteur's experiment has all of the hallmarks of modern scientific inquiry. It begins with a hypothesis, and it tests that hypothesis using carefully controlled experiment. This same process, based on the same logical sequence of steps, has been employed by scientists for nearly 150 years. Over time, these steps have evolved into idealized methodology that we now know as the scientific method. Sample care. Invented kerosene by refining petroleum, originally to provide sustainable lighting to homes and heating purposes. At present, kerosene, also known as an illuminating oil, is widely used in powering automobiles, factories, and power plants. The more people get connected by trade and exploration, the more they needed a way to easily maintain close connection and communication with each other in real time. This is true for all sectors of the society, including the government. Thus, the development of telephone by Alexander Graham Bell was one of the most important inventions of that time. Calculator. Although there were already existing devices used for computation, a faster way to compute more complicated equations were developed. The creation of modern calculators paved the way for the development of a more complex processing machine like the computer. Now, it's time for an activity. Activity 2. Choose one invention in the medieval or modern age that has a great impact in the present day.